We've talked a lot about Florida State leaving the ACC and possibly joining the Big Ten. Is there any chance that Florida State is just using the Big Ten as leverage to get a better deal to remain in the ACC? We'll explore that possibility. That's next on Locked On Big Ten.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and a play-by-play announcer. I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. And that's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockdown. Terms and conditions apply. Is Florida State using the Big Ten? Plus a lot of recruiting news in our second segment, plus our Tuesday tweets. That's always fun. See if you made the cut. Is Florida State Athletic Director Michael Alford using the Big Ten as leverage against the ACC, or does Florida State really want to leave the ACC and join the Big Ten, or even the SEC for that matter? Here at Locked On Big Ten, we have long suggested that the ACC will indeed fall apart once we come to some sort of conclusion in the Seminoles lawsuit against the ACC and its low-paying grant of rights media deal. As you know, if you've been following this podcast or you follow this sport, which you do, college football, Florida State is suing the ACC to get out of this media deal. Clemson is also suing the ACC. The ACC is then countersuing Florida State and Clemson, and the rest of the conference is just sitting back, taking a sit back and wait approach for this whole thing to see what becomes of these lawsuits. Michael Alford, the AD at Florida State, point blank says, as things stand now, it will cost Florida State $572 million in exit fees. $572 million exit fees and future media revenue rights fees to exit the ACC and move on. That's more than $500 million. But by remaining in the ACC, they will earn about $40 million a year less than their colleagues with their media deals in the Big Ten and the SEC. All right, we've all covered this before. They're presently stuck in this deal till 2036. So 12 more years of this, making less and less money than their peers. That's why they're trying to get out. So we have long assumed that once Florida State and Clemson leave the ACC, either by winning their legal battles or by some sort of settlement this summer, that at least Florida State and the Big Ten will be a match made in heaven. Maybe Clemson also, or North Carolina State, or Virginia. You get the idea. There's going to be teams up for grabs. But there are a couple of important dates coming up that I want you to be aware of. All right, Florida State and any other school wishing to jump out of the ACC, let's say next year, next season, they have until August 15th to make that announcement. Once they get past August 15th, they're committed to remaining in the ACC for at least another season. All right, so that's how that works. That's 2 months. That's coming. It's going to be here fast. Now, we don't think that these lawsuits will be decided by then, but we do think a settlement will be reached by that time. Any kind of settlement would cost these ACC schools hundreds of millions of dollars. They're not going to get out scot-free if there's some sort of settlement. There's going to be some sort of middle ground. And it's going to be expensive for everybody. But here's the gray area after August 15th. Look ahead to the following 6 months. ESPN has a look-in clause. It's called a look-in clause in their ACC broadcast deal that opens in February of 2025. They can open up discussions with this current, what was a 13-year deal, now 12 years left on it. They can open it up, kind of do a check-in, say, all right, this is working, this isn't working. What do we do moving forward? So they have the ability to make this better for everybody. We've mentioned this before, but since these dates are fast approaching, we thought we'd mention them here again. But yeah, they can open up discussions and redo some of these deals with the ACC schools. Now, you may be thinking, A lot of people say this is an airtight deal. Why would ESPN do that? ESPN's a business. Why would they just be willing to, for example, double the amount that they're paying to these ACC schools just out of the kindness of their heart to keep them? No. But what good is an ACC TV deal if they're left holding the bag without Florida State, without a Clemson, without a Miami, without a North Carolina? Because they decide, you know what? I know it's expensive. We're out of here anyway. So there might be some incentive for ESPN to maybe pay these schools some more to stay in the ACC. Maybe. It's something because if they don't, and these big schools leave, they're going to be stuck with errand games like Syracuse versus Boston College or Wake Forest versus Duke in football. Not a lot of people are going to watch that stuff. That could be a problem. So who really has the leverage here? The ACC has some leverage. They have the teams and they have the media rights TV contract. Right now, ESPN has some leverage. I guess they own the rights as we speak. The schools have some leverage. I mean, ultimately, they could pick up their ball and go home and go to another conference if they want to. If they want to pay to do it, though, they're going to have to pay to do so. It won't be cheap. Which leads me to my next thought. With all these moving parts here, got to thinking, is Florida State just, is it possible? Is it possible that just the threat of moving to the Big Ten, are they using that as leverage? Or they really want to come to the Big Ten? We've operated under the premise they want out of the ACC and they would like to come to the Big Ten. Maybe that's just a smokescreen, just kind of using the Big Ten as leverage. As long as that threat exists, maybe they can work a better deal with the ACC when that contract kind of opens back up in February for a little look at that clause. Maybe. Nobody's saying such publicly out loud. But maybe Alford, Florida State, and the other schools are playing the waiting game on this deal. Maybe they won't make a decision about 2025 this coming August 15th. Maybe they'll ride it out one more year and wait and see what happens and what ESPN's reaction is going to be in February, if and when they reopen the contract. Again, they don't have to. They can just say, no, we're good. That's where they have their leverage at ESPN. But again, ESPN knows that their most valued assets are threatening to leave if a deal is not reworked. It is possible that ESPN would value those schools so much that they would pony up just to keep them, and so that they would never leave the ACC. And that's where the idea of using the Big Ten or maybe even the SEC as leverage comes to mind. But I'm not so sure about all that. I feel like Florida State's departure from the departure from the ACC, I think that's in motion. I think they've already made up their minds. They want out and they want to go to a bigger conference. That's what I think. In the meantime, we'll have to see what the numbers are should these lawsuits against the ACC get settled this summer. And if that result is favorable for the schools, then things could move fast. But as they stand right now, as we mentioned earlier, and as Alford mentioned earlier, school has to pay $572 million to leave the ACC in order to jump to the Big Ten. That's $130 million in exit fees, and then the rest would be forfeiture of any broadcast rights fees. It's a lot of money. So anyway, that this is all for the right to move to another conference, for example. Now, I told you it would cost them $572 million to do so. That would get them the right to go to a Big Ten, for example, and maybe make $500 to $600 million over the next 10 years or so, or the next 12 years. It's kind of barely a wash. The expense to get out versus the new money you'd get coming in. I don't know. And by the way, those numbers don't include the $200 million that everybody's going to have to pay when we start doing revenue share in 2025. That's $200 million over the next 10 years. Add that to the bill. I mean, we're getting close to $1 billion of expenses here with these schools. It's absolutely crazy. That's why tuition goes up. Florida State and Clemson would need much more favorable numbers this summer in a hypothetical settlement in order to make this worthwhile for everybody. But that's where Alford comes in again, the athletic director at Florida State. He says he's actually sat down and he's projected budgets for the next 19 years at Florida State through 2043. Can you imagine that? He says he's got like 20 different versions and moving parts with each of those 19 years. He's got numerous spreadsheets, numerous financial variables, You go blind putting together that spreadsheet. But at this point, it's safe to say that everybody is using everybody else as leverage. I think that's where we could come full circle on this. But in the next 60 days, that could be very telling as to what direction everybody's going to end up going here. The next 60 days are very before this August 15th date. And in the meantime, do we get some sort of settlement with any of these lawsuits? And that will help us predict the next phase of conference realignment for college football. All right, your thoughts on that? It's kind of a different angle, a different approach to all this expansion and realignment stuff involving the ACC and Big Ten. We'd love your thoughts as always. Hey, be sure to subscribe also. If you don't mind, click it and you're done. No other information is required. It is free, but it gets you and I on the same page with the Big Ten each and every day with our Locked On Big Ten podcast. You can follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast, and that way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Recruiting around the Big Ten is in full swing right now. We've got the latest from Michigan and Nebraska and Indiana and Rutgers. Rutgers is killing it out there. Greg Schiano doing a fantastic job. We'll have all that plus our Tuesday tweets right around the corner right here on Locked On Big Ten. I'll tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. If you work in an office, maybe you're the person in charge. You got to hire people. Maybe you own the business. It's a small business. You got to hire people, and it's always hard. It's very hard to do. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. They make it so much easier. LinkedIn isn't just a job board that helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else. You're looking around, you can't find any, go to LinkedIn Jobs. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to a perfect role are there at your fingertips. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users, they don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. How much easier does that make your job? Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. And again, that's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe. That really helps us out. And it helps you out too. You get our stuff right away on YouTube. And of course, you can share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget to check out our website, talkbig10.com. All of our podcasts and merch and ticket information is all right there at your fingertips. Talkbig10.com. Let's get into some recruiting news, shall we? It's the lifeblood of college football. Michigan received a commitment from the class of 2025 from four-star defensive lineman Jalen Williams. He is 6'6". He's 265 pounds. Just wrapped up his official visit this weekend, and it was a wrap. They signed him. They got him to commit. He's from Illinois. They chose the Wolverines over Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Nebraska. And, of course, the Wolverines have a knack for developing NFL-ready defensive linemen in recent years. That is very attractive reason to go there. The month of June has been pretty good for Nebraska, even though they did not land Williams, the person I just mentioned. They were on the short list. But linebacker Pierce Mooberry, a four-star running back Jamarian Parker are committed to Lincoln, and Mooberry is a Nebraska kid who's decided to stay in state and play for Matt Rule. Matt Rule has been making an effort to get more Nebraska kids to stay at Nebraska. So, and by the way, this kid picked Nebraska over Iowa State, Minnesota, Kansas State, Alabama, Iowa, and Wisconsin. Meanwhile, have you noticed what's going on at Rutgers? We talked about this last week. They landed some more help, got some help for their secondary. After just a visit this weekend, it's four-star Tariq Hayer out of Washington, D.C. Fast guy, runs a 40 and 4.6. Also, three-star offensive guard Garrett Gordon is coming to Piscataway from Florida, 6'4", 295, coming out of high school. This week follows last weekend when we told you that Greg Schiano closed 10 commitments. They were 10 guys visiting. He committed them, like almost everybody. Rutgers has a top 12 recruiting class for the class of 2025. Greg Schiano is getting after it. And he's closing guys on their visits on the weekends that come for their official visits before they can go talk to anybody else. He's doing a great job over there. We have discussed from time to time football renovations. A lot of facilities around the Big Ten are sprucing things up a little bit to different degrees. Northwestern's getting a brand new stadium. We told you about that. Ohio State just renovated its locker room for the football team. We showed you that last week. And of course, Penn State, we did a big thing. We announced they're going to spend $700 million to revamp Beaver Stadium. Boy, $700 million. That's enough to get you out of the ACC. It's a lot of money. Wisconsin is touching up Camp Randall a little bit. Nebraska has some changes coming up at their Memorial Stadium. And Indiana has made some improvements to their weight rooms and their practice facility next door to Memorial Stadium. Really spruced it up, the John Mellencamp Center over there. Do these things make a difference? You bet they do. The Hoosiers just landed some nice commitments from 3 of their official visitors from late May and early June, including state of Georgia product and defensive back Jalen Bell. He was a former LSU committee. He was going to LSU, but he decided, no, I'm going to Indiana instead. He said the facilities were definitely a factor in his decision to go to Bloomington. So nice job over there. IU and new head coach Kurt Signetti have 11 commits for the class of 2025 so far, and that ranks them 40th in the country, which is modest, but it's their best recruiting class in 4 years there. So kudos to all of them. A lot of coaches working hard, getting it after it here as we get ready for the summer months. Anytime we like to talk about recruiting, it's always brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. Every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedon. College terms and conditions apply. Hey, do you watch daytime TV? FS1, Fox, ESPN? People talking louder and talking over each other. I find it very irritating. You got to turn down the volume or turn it off if it's on at all. But I have a new option for you here. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day with the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you the can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On Tuesdays, we like to do Tuesday tweets. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten number 10. And you put something up there, we like it, it's going on the podcast. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Big Ten. Summertime means baseball. Of course, the NBA Finals as well. Stanley Cup. It's about everything is out there, and it's all fun with FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 that you can use to bet on everything from the finals MVP to who's going to hit a home run. A little prop bet is what they call it there. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Visit FanDuel.com. And I will tell you that for tomorrow, Wednesday, the NBA Finals get going again. Boston is at Dallas. Dallas is a 1.5 favorite at home, and I think Vegas is on to something. I don't think this thing's going 7. I think it's a shorter series, but it won't be a sweep. This is the game where I think some of the role players for Dallas, other than Kyrie and Luka, add to this team. By the way, Kyrie's got to play better. But I think once they get home, they get the first home game of the series, I think they turn it around and they get the win here. So I like Dallas -1.5 for this game. Player props, also look for something higher on Kyrie Irving. He scored 12 and 16 points in the last 2 games, respectively, and he's 0 for 3 in both of the games. I do like the over here, too. It's been a pretty big defensive battle as far as the Celtics. They've been playing some great defense. I do think it noses over the 212.5 on this one. But you can go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and check out America's #1 sports book, FanDuel. All right, now I want to take a look at our Tuesday tweets. We perused our Twitter, and we found some good ones. We're going to put them up here on the screen, full screen. If you're audio only, I'll tell you what's going on so that you can listen and figure it out. We have a picture of Lisa Leslie on the Team USA basketball jersey from back in the day. This is from at Apex Jones 22. WNBA and Team USA four-time gold medal legend Lisa Leslie, when asked if Caitlin Clark should be on Team USA, she says 100%, 1,000%. I can't even let you get the question out. I don't know how you leave the country without her, quote, unquote. Well, they're gonna. It was announced over the weekend that she will not be on Team USA in the Paris Olympics. We did almost our entire podcast on it yesterday. What an outrage it is. Go back and check it out, by the way. Locked On Big Ten from yesterday regarding Caitlin Clark. You can find that here on YouTube or go back to our website at talkbig10number10.com and find it. Meanwhile, here's one from at Barstool Sports. It is a video of the Indiana Fever coach, and she said regarding Caitlin Clark not making the Team USA roster, she said Caitlin went up to her and said, "Hey, coach, they woke a monster," quote unquote. Yeah, she's going to be motivated. Meanwhile, here's one from Shannon Sharp on Caitlin Clark being left off. Says, "Are we really trying to grow the game? Because this is the most popular women's basketball player in the world, and it ain't even close. So we really trying to grow the game? Is that what we're really trying to do? Or are we just talking about, we're just trying to grow? We're just talking about it, not actually doing it." Yeah, that was Shannon Sharp with that one. A lot of people upset about it. Meanwhile, a little football. Here's from at Penn State on 3. Breaking: Nittany Lions have picked up a commitment from 4-star corner and California native Darius Dixon. He says, "My visit to Penn State was amazing." All right, there you go. 4-star corner. Meanwhile, here is a picture of Jim Harbaugh, the player, and Jim Harbaugh, the coach, when he was at Michigan. This is at the real Don Thomas. Don says Jim Harbaugh really had a Hall of Fame caliber college playing career and a Hall of Fame caliber coaching career. One of the most decorated personalities in the history of the sport. I think he deserves a statue and or a street named after him in Ann Arbor. Hashtag Go Blue. I think that'll happen. Don, I think that'll happen sooner or later. I'm not sure when, but it'll happen. He'll get a street or a statue. Here is from at Iowa Hawkeyes football. This is a picture of the team playing, and 100 days football emoji. Hashtag Hawkeyes. I actually think it's a little. Oh, actually, I just noticed the date on that. Pulled an older one that resurfaced. Sorry about that. It's a lot less than that. It's like 90 days. Here is at Hawkeye football. This is from more recent. This is just a couple days ago. 12 more Saturdays. There we go. Picture some action at Kinnick Stadium. All right. Here it said Kinnick vibes, by the way, from Kinnick Stadium. Here is a picture of Ryan Day with the entire schedule for Ohio State this year, complete with logos. Very colorful graphic. Ohio State schedule. This is from On3 Sports, and Ohio State will win blank amount of games in 2024. You fill it in. Here's what you do with this. You start at 10 and then you work your way from there. That's the floor. 10. The 2 games to circle on here are at Oregon and, of course, Michigan at the end. I think this year, Oregon is the toughest game on that schedule, but you never know what's going to happen in that Michigan game. So start at 10, decide if you think you go 11 or 12. There'll be no worse than that. I'll tell you that right now. Here's another one from at 11 Warriors, another Buckeyes site. Ohio State will wear its gray alternate uniforms for its October 5th home game against Iowa. There you have it. This is a funny one. It's from at No Context Purdue. It looks like a souvenir store with some school clothing. Look at it closely, though. It looks like it's a black quarter zip hoodie. It's the Purdue colors. It says Boilermakers across the front. But look at the logo above it. It's Colorado Buffalo. Who made the mistake? And their colors are very similar. This is a Colorado Buffalo mistake with a Boilermaker, or a Boilermaker mistake with Colorado Buffalo on it. I don't know. Thought I'd show it to you. By the way, if you want merchandise for your team and you don't want any mistakes, check out our website, talkbig10number10.com. We got every school right there for you. All right. It's all good. Fantastic. Many ways for you to reach out. Don't forget, you can reach that website. There it is, crawling on the bottom of the video, talkbig10number10.com for the merchandise. And also all of our podcasts are there. I told you, go back, check out yesterday's on Caitlin Clark. You can follow us on Twitter at X at talkbig10number10. And don't forget comments on YouTube as well. Before you get ready to watch another episode of Locked On Big Ten, go ahead and subscribe. That'll help you out. It helps us out. You can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And don't forget our friends at Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe. It's the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right. So you have plenty of options for you right here. Thank you, as always, for joining us. I always love our visits, and I can't wait to talk again tomorrow. Tell your friends about us in the meantime that we're here. I know you know a friend or a family member that is a Big Ten alum and fan. Let them know we're out here. That'd be a great favor. Thank you very much. Talk to you tomorrow on the next edition of Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman.